It's done. It's the morning of the expansion and we have finally completed it. This is the final review of the cards for the madness at the Darkmoon Faire. Well, you know, until they announce the cards from the mini set with 35 more cards. But anywho, the review this time covers the last 35 cards for the initial release, including cards from Warrior, Paladin, Priest, Shaman, and Druid, as well as the last few neutral minions. And the legendaries for Shaman and Priest are looking particularly interesting.
Huh, this should be interesting.
As we did last time, the looking closer portion of the video is just hitting on an interesting point or two for each card, and at the end will be the quick reviews with puns. There are time codes for each group in the description. If you're curious about the details behind the categories shown on the review chart, check out the description below or the intro to review number 1 linked up there. Let's get right into it. Stage Dive. Town Crier is back, but with an aggressive buff instead of a body. Bomb Warrior would love a way to draw Dr. Krastenov from the deck for another wrench buff, and awesome if the stats help him survive an extra turn. ETC God of Metal Super Rush meme decks will love the targeted card draw. Bumper Car. Oh, a mech for Ringmaster Watley to draw. But why would we want to pay 4 mana across 3 bodies for 3/5 and rushing stats? It works okay with Stage Dive, and it can work as a targeted follow-up to Lord Barov, but it's too weak for meta decks. However, it triggers ETC God of Metal 3 times from a single card, or it can trigger 8 times for 10 mana alongside Playmaker, so meme decks will accept it. Minefield. Dynamatic without the body. Here's a cheap way to take down some of those pesky Divine Shield recruits Paladins will be summoning. But Bladestorm will probably just be better. However, Frothing Berserker, Charge, Maiev combo decks are happy to have another way to buff Berserker before he goes dormant. Stagehand. Wow, a super weak, one-time, untargeted hand buff on a mechanized Bloodfin Raptor. That sounds amazingly useless. It can get drawn by Ringmaster Watley and buffed by his baton, but this is looking too weak even for meme decks to use. It's a good thing there are other mechs for Warrior to use. Feat of Strength. That seems like a lot of stats to stack on something my opponent wanted to silence anyways. 3 mana just to buff a single minion feels bad unless that minion is Evasive Draconid. But we might try landing this on an Armadillo in a N'Zoth taunt deck? Maybe. Sword Eater. Wow, this is actually really good. It's pre-nerf Fiery War Axe with a 2/5 taunt for 2 mana, and it comes with pirate synergies. This will be amazing from Skyraider. He's too small for Big Warrior, and Bomb Warriors just want Wrench Calipers, but there will be a deck in the new meta to pick it up. Now, Sword Eater will definitely find a home in a Skybarge, Pirates, Menagerie, Galakron Warrior meme deck, as well as Menagerie Taunt Warrior. Red Scale Dragon Tamer. Murloc Paladins can draw Scalelord from their deck. Would that be enough to run it? It's selective card draw on a synergistic, decent body, so probably. Menagerie decks will probably choose Murgurgle over this, but Murloc Paladins should use him, and this will tie a full-fledged Dragon Murloc meme deck together. Snack Run. It's Ivory Knight without the body or the cost. Will this get another Libram of Hope, or 3 1-mana secrets? If Paladin weren't ridiculously strong right now, this would probably have a chance to join a meta deck, but they don't, and won't need it. All the cards that really reward extra healing are in Wild, so there's not much to experiment around with this card either. Carnival Barker. The card Recruit Paladin needed to tie it all together. Surprisingly, this doesn't look like it'll be stuck with Recruits alone. Broom Paladin could use him pretty effectively as well. Several of the 1 health minions are death rattles you'll want to trigger, but the added board pressure may be worth including him. Whatever the case, our Brazen Zealot, Day at the Fair, Righteous Cause meme deck will put him to good use. Gahoon the Blood God. Oh look, another Warlock Legendary. Wait a minute. Priest? Okay. They can probably heal up the damage this'll do, and it's nice card draw and mana cheating on a big body. I'm not sure current forms of Res or Control Priest would accommodate him very well, but modified versions might. Also, this might just be good as a top end to a Tempo Priest or as help to finish the quest in a revived Quest Res Priest. It'll probably find a home, and there should be something broken powerful to build around this. Blood of Gahun. The blood god is bleeding. Imagine that. Perhaps Gahun draws this for the priest, and this summons a 5/5 Kartut Defender to help heal them back up? Yeah, that's only 21/21 in stats on the board for 8 mana and 4 health at the end of the day. That's a major high roll, but really? You want to give what may be the most hated class in the game an even better version of what has been terrorizing Wild since Barn Yasharj combo got nerfed? Shadow Essence 2.0 has arrived, and it comes with an 8/8 taunt with the threat of repeating for just 3 more. It looks as though Res Priest has found its new favorite toy. I mean, meme decks may just use this to summon extra Desert Obelisks, but still, OP. Oh, and N'Zoth can bring this back too, in case someone wants to build a Menagerie Priest. Idol of Yasharj. Oh, so 5/5s weren't enough. I see. Res Priests. I'm just gonna go ahead and surrender now so we don't both waste 40 minutes of our lives. Yeah, this'll be fun. But did I mention those Desert Obelisks? Palm reading. Ah, so Idol of Yasharj isn't actually an 8 mana card. Got it. Right. I'm not worried at all. But this, alongside Fate Weaver and the next 2 cards, does open the door for some really cool Grave Rune Psyche Split combos that would have been impossible to pull off otherwise. Rogue may not have the market cornered for craziest combo possibilities anymore. Nazmani Bloodweaver. These aren't bad stats for a 3-drop, but the challenge of getting value from this card is probably too high when compared against the other tools Priest has and is getting. Even in meme decks, there are only so many cheap spells to play and discounts to be gained at a pace of 1 mana per spell. If Priest had access to something like Unstable Evolution, we could set up an absurd Generous Mummy Silas play, but it doesn't look like Nazmani Bloodweaver will be joining meme decks. Insight. Free card draw potential. This is a nice way to selectively draw a minion from your deck and discount it if this is corrupted, which should be pretty easy to do. This can set up some really cool combos with minions that would otherwise be too expensive to mess around with. Current meta decks don't really need this enough to swap out a different card, but I imagine tutoring out a minion with a discount will earn this a spot in a new deck. Fairground Fool. Would Tempo Priest ever work? This is great value for the cost when corrupted, but it's not usually coming down as corrupted until turn 5 or later, at which point a 4/7 is just meh. Res decks would be foolish to include him, and Control wouldn't need him. He's probably too weak for any new decks either, and even with 7 health, there's not much to work with. We could build a board full of fools, which would be funny, but there's not anything terribly interesting to do with him. Inara Stormcrash. Doomhammer on a body without overload, but just for 1 turn since opponents will kill her. She works well with several of the next cards we'll cover, but she's also pretty interesting with Rune Dagger in a burst damage deck as well, since Wind Fury will increase your spell damage by 2 this turn alongside your hero doing 6 damage. While Totem Shaman appreciates her efforts, they'll stick with board buffs and totem synergies. Control Shaman also finds her a bit awkward, so will Inara and the cards centered around non-totem token Shaman with board buffs develop into a new meta deck? The whole package feels a little too weak to rise into the meta, so sadly Inara won't be joining the meta. She doesn't play well with Bogspine Knuckles either. However, Spell Damage Shaman and Rockbiter Weapon Stormstrike meme decks will give her a home. Stormstrike. Ah, so the artwork is telling us to use this with Inara. Too bad this is the most expensive spell to deal 3 damage to a minion other than Eye Beam, which is pretty much always discounted. The upside, except when paired with Inara Stormcrash specifically, is too weak for this to see play, even in Control Shaman. If the whole token hero attack package were stronger, this would have a chance, but sadly, it looks as though Shaman is stuck with totems and control. But hey, this will pair with Inara and Rockbiter Weapon for meme deck plays. Whack-a-Knoll Hammer, a +1/+1 buff on a stick, or hammer. This is a better Fiery War Axe, and Inara will let you deal 10 damage with your face while giving her +2/+2 so she might not die immediately. But Splitting Axe generates much more pressure for the deck running it, and +1/+1 to a single minion isn't that much in the scheme of things. It's probably not enough to make Token Shaman work. However, this is needed to set up a high damage output in an Inara hero damage burst meme deck. Pitmaster. Decent fuel for an evolve deck. He's too little on curve and he's too late when corrupted to make an impact in any meta decks. However, Bogspine Knuckles will pair well with him in decks attempting to revive the evolve archetype. Revolve. A weak evolve. This one's actually pretty interesting. Not only will it allow you to kind of heal minions after value trades, but it will let you transform corrupt, taunt, and buffed minions on your opponent's side of the board. Devolving Missiles might just be better, and in the current meta, I think that's true. But I could see this making the cut in place of or alongside Plague of Murlocs as an additional disruption tool if Corruption, Res Priest, or Libram Paladin get too out of hand. This will also go great into Evolve meme decks to transform Desert Hare, Mogu Flesh Shaper, or Pitmaster when another Evolve card isn't in hand. Cage Match Custodian. Reliquary Shaman is legit now. Using this to pull Splitting Axe from your deck reliably could actually help Totem Shaman ramp the pressure more reliably. And I can see the Fist of Ra-Den making a comeback in Control or Highlander decks if it can be pulled out of the deck more reliably. It may be a bit optimistic to claim that the Fist of Ra-Den Reliquary Shaman can become a meta deck, but I think it has a chance. Whatever the case, we'll use this with Horde Pillagers and the Fist of Ra-Den to summon 12 Reliquary of Souls much more reliably in meme decks. Faire Arborist. Quest Druid got another Rising Winds? 3 mana for 4/4 in stats was decent when Landscaping was played, but the token decks are faster and other decks are bigger, so this wouldn't join any current meta decks. Quest Druid is tier 4 at the moment, and this could potentially slot into that, but without any other new tools, it's doubtful they'll climb back into the top 3 tiers, meaning it won't be meta later either. Druid is one of the classes that will be able to ramp to Yasharj quickly and corrupt some of the more expensive cards, but this isn't exciting to get back from Yasharj. However, this could help draw through that deck, and it might be okay as a follow-up after opponents clear a Yasharj board to draw into the final pressure to close out the game. This is just barely meme deck worthy. Moon-Touched Amulet. Feral Rage is back, and with an upside. But even with an upside, it won't see play. Without something like Gonk in Standard, this is a challenge to build around. However, it would be possible to gain a ridiculous amount of armor and burst the opponent for 24 damage from hand if we do a ridiculously overcomplicated deck running Educated Elix, Animated Broomsticks, and a ton of card draw alongside Yasharj. Still, we'll try it. Umbral Owl. Corridor Creeper is back. Sort of. Most Druid decks play lots of spells, so this won't be difficult to discount, but it doesn't quite fit the game plan of any current meta decks. Nevertheless, completely disregarding what will likely be a very cheap or free 4/4 rush minion in decks playing lots of spells would be a mistake. I don't see the deck this will fit into at the moment, but I'm pretty sure it'll find a home. One interesting thing to note is that casting Solar Power into Embiggen will transform this into an 8/8 rush minion that didn't technically go up in cost at all since the 2 spells discount it. There should be some wacky things we can do with this. Fizzy Elemental. That's a big, expensive pile of stats and keywords. Pulling this from strength in numbers could be game-winning since it has Rush and Taunt, but Scrapyard Colossus is probably still better. It's an interesting alternative or addition, but probably too expensive without anything special going on. As an elemental with Rush, this is interesting for a N'Zoth deck, but it doesn't look like that will be strong enough to be a meta deck. However, it can join N'Zoth meme decks. Costumed Entertainer, another understated hand buff card that will meet the same fate as all the other understated hand buff cards. But in meme decks looking to get max value from Carnival Clown, which we'll look at in a moment, she might see play. Showstopper, a new neutral silence. Yes! It's a death rattle. No. Animated Broomstick makes it almost good? Okay. This will be relegated to fighting alongside Watcher minions and Supreme Abyssal in meme decks. Wriggling Horror. Fungalmancer is back and comes down a lot faster. Aggro and token decks just got a lot better. However, there's not anything peculiar to do with this other than double the battle cry in Quest Shaman. That's not worth building an experimental deck around. Darkmoon Dirigible. Scarlet Crusader, you got a few buffs. You're still too slow to make an impact on the meta, but Blood Knight is happy to see minions other than Silverhand recruits with Divine Shield to empower him in meme decks. Circus Amalgam. All tribe synergy has returned, but this time it has Taunt. Totem Shaman and Murloc Paladin would love another synergy minion, but this is slow and they don't need Taunt, so Circus Amalgam wouldn't see play now. But this will open the door for lots of new decks with synergy packages, including Demon Warlock. Also, this will fill in the other minion types for almost any deck playing N'Zoth. I'm hoping it won't interfere with your main minion types in the summoning pool. We'll see. And it might be fun to summon an entire board of amalgams with Taunt from N'Zoth. Circus Medic. Stabilization against aggro and pressure against control decks. The 4 damage later in the game isn't ridiculous, but Glavebound Adept still makes the cut in a lot of the Demon Hunter decks because it can go over taunts and deal that last bit of damage needed. With the effects on this card, I'm guessing control decks would actually be the best home for her. They have better removal in the late game, but this still comes with a nice body to help clear or push a little damage. It's controversial, but I'm gonna say she could join control decks in the current and new metas, but do let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree. She's also a nice inclusion in Yasharj meme decks, even if she doesn't come back from Yasharj, because she bought you an extra turn to stabilize the mid game. Derailed Coaster, the best flavor on a card from the set. No current meta decks hold enough minions in hand to get real value from this, and it's doubtful that a few 1/1 rush minions will be sufficient to push this into the new meta. Quest Hunter doesn't tend to run enough minions to get broken value from this, but an OTC God of Metal deck can probably find a creative way to get value from it. Claw Machine. Removal, card draw, and a sizable hand buff bundled into a single card. Not only is this a great mech for N'Zoth decks, but this could see play in regular decks as well. Probably a little slower, control-oriented decks. Right now, Big Druid could potentially throw it in, but I think there is room for a few other decks to include it going forward. And alongside Maxima Blastenheimer in 9 Lives Hunter, or some of the N'Zoth builds in classes without great mechs, this will certainly find a home in meme decks. Carnival Clown. Wow, that's an expensive corrupt card. The only classes with multiple ways to corrupt this guy at full cost are Mage and Warrior. But Druids can get this guy out with +4/+4 across the board with help from Survival of the Fittest, when they bother to cast it at full price. However, even uncorrupted, he's 12/12 across 3 taunts to block opponents. He may be a sad hit from commencement, but I think Big Warrior would toss him in right now, and the opportunity to drop a board of these alongside Yasharj makes me think he should find a home in another deck or two in the new meta. Now, do we need to fill the board with 16/16 statted copies of this guy in a Solar Eclipse Survival of the Fittest deck? No, but we will. And now for the quick reviews. Dr. Krastenov will do a stage dive in meta decks, and ETC God of Metal expects meme decks to rush the stage. Bumper cars aren't lethal enough for meta warriors, but ETC and Playmaker meme decks are happy to send 8 damage to minions and 16 damage to the face with this for just 10 mana. Meta warriors seem to prefer Bladestorms to Minefields, but Frothing Berserker, Charge, Maiev combo decks will take both. Stagehand will never enter the hand of any meta or meme deck players, sadly. Tales of any feat of strength by warriors in meta decks have been silenced, but there have been rumors of an armadillo of unusual size. Sword Eater would eat the wrench calipers in the current meta, but he'll slash his way into new meta decks and devour Menagerie memes. Red Scale Dragon Tamer has tamed Scale Lord for Murloc Paladins, and he's determined to unite all dragons and Murlocs in meme decks. Snack Run went out for snacks and didn't make it back in time to join any decks whatsoever. Carnival Barker would have swept into the current meta, will recruit for Paladins in the upcoming meta, and knows that Brazen Zealot has a righteous cause for a fun day at the fair. Current decks might not know how to approach Gahun the Blood God, but he will lead new meta and meme decks to bloody victory very soon. Blood of Gahun has spawned a new hatred for Res Priest, as few will be able to slog through the pools of toxicity this will summon. Except Desert Obelisk. It'll be cool to see a non-completely useless version of Desert Obelisk summoned onto the board. Idol of Yashar's will lead to the shortest games against Priest ever known, as many players will choose the concede button during Mulligan rather than 40-minute battles of futility. But those 10-10 Desert Obelisks are looking pretty nice now. Players of Priest meta decks will be adept at palm reading, and with discounts like this, we can foresee Priests joining Rogues and pulling off some ridiculously complex combos. Nazmani Bloodweaver can't seem to find a way to weave herself into meta decks, and her random discount abilities are too weak for experimental decks to pull off anything unusual with her. Current decks might not be motivated to use their insight, but forward-looking Priests see the value of cost reduction, and meme decks understand the power of corruption. Fairground Fool is likely to make a fool of any meta or meme deck that chooses to include him. Inara Stormcrash would crash and burn in meta decks, but she'll storm into meme decks for surprising spell damage and heroic aggression. Stormstrike will not strike fear into any meta deck opponents, but it will zap minions in meme decks, preparing a massive strike to the enemy's face. Meta decks are stunned that Whack-a-Null Hammer won't make the cut, but it will help Inara whack opponents for a fair bit more. No meta decks will be willing to toss Pitmaster into the pit, but he'll look a lot more imposing once he equips Bogspine Knuckles for meme decks. Revolve may not be needed now, but rotating through a number of transform effects will be revolutionary in the new meta, and it will make Desert Hare, Mogu Fleshshaper, and Pit Commander merry when other Evolve cards aren't in hand. Cage Match Custodian can split totems in current decks, will bring back the Fist of Radin in new decks, and will practically guarantee us 12 Reliquary of Souls in meme decks. Fair Arborist needs additional fertilizer to grow into a meta deck, but Yasharj might tolerate her presence in meme decks. No meta deck players will be willing to touch Moon-Touched Amulet, but Educated Elic, Animated Broomstick, and Yasharj are curious how opponents will react to 36 armor and 24 attack in a single turn. Umbral Owl may not see a way into current meta decks, but there's a good chance it can creep into new decks, and it will certainly swoop into some meme decks. Fizzy Elemental loses out to Scrapyard Colossus in meta decks, but N'Zoth is excited to see a drink as big as his appetite. Costumed Entertainer will never make it into the hand of meta players, but her act with Carnival Clown will be a hit in meme decks. Showstopper forgot to rush, so it missed the meta shows, but Supreme Abyssal doesn't mind watching opponents' plans stopped by animated broomsticks. Players preparing to clear aggro boards will be filled with horror when Wriggling Horror buffs the board, but it doesn't look like this can wriggle its way into a meme deck. Darkmoon Dirigible is fated to crash and burn in the meta, but Blood Knight sees it flying over the army of Silverhand recruits bearing divine shields. Circus Amalgam may be too slow for current decks, but it'll be whatever the new meta decks need, and it will build a full wall with help from Zoth. Circus Medic just barely has the balance to enter meta decks, and Yashar's meme decks welcome her mad reversal of effects. Derailed Coaster got completely derailed from its path to any meta decks, but the Darkmoon Riders are cheering their fate to music from ETC God of Metal. Claw Machine might just barely have a grip on Big Druid right now, but it will deliver resources to a number of new meta decks, and Maxima Blastenheimer is excited to load this in her canon. While really expensive to corrupt, warriors love Carnival Clown, and druids are curious how opponents will deal with a board full of 16/16 copies of him. That's a wrap. This was the final review of the Madness at the Darkmoon Faire cards, at least until the mini set is announced. It was fun, and I'm excited to start experimenting with these very soon. Now, one last time, let's hear a message from the old gods. Like, subscribe, and comment below. Wait, that's it? Okay. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Remember, you're awesome. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome day.